Hi guys, it's Stephanie Grams, Sewpreneur, helping sewing enthusiasts go from hobbyist to sewpreneur, which is a play on words of sewing entrepreneur. All right, I'm located in Ohio, and you can always find all kinds of great information on my YouTube channel at just look for the @ sign of at Sewing Memories. Okay, so today's helpful tip, and it's hashtag Friday Sews. So here are, let me see, 21 tips to sew faster. All right, are you ready? It's going to be great, I promise. Get rid of distractions. That means get rid of your kids, all your pets, turn off your phone. No, I'm just joking. Try to get in your own little space, even if it's like put on earphones and just, obviously if you have young children, you'll want to keep an eye on them. But get rid of distractions. All right, be organized. So today is Friday, September 8th. Happy birthday, Sierra. And yesterday was Autumn's birthday. That's two of my daughters. So happy birthday, ladies. You might be watching. Mama loves you. So get organized. So like I said, today's Friday. So this weekend, I'm going to tear apart my sewing area and reorganize. I'm sure it's going to take me all weekend to do that. All right. Tip number 3, keep your tools in good working condition. And I'm going to add to that, keep them in organized fashion. I have a really bad habit of carrying my sewing scissors from one project to the next, and sometimes I have to take my project out to our breakfast bar, and that's where I lay out the really big green self-healing cutting mat that I have, and I'll have to do a lot of my fabric cutting out there temporarily. Once we move out of this condo, I keep praying and working towards being able to buy a house so I can have my own sewing studio again. And then so keep your tools in good working order and keep them together. Consider your pins, seam ripper, and your scissors. You want to keep those sharp. Tip 4 of sewing fast would be to keep your work area well lit. Lighting's very important, and carry a lamp through the rooms if you have to use like a sewing area or something like that. All right, tip number 6 of sewing fast, do your prep work before starting your project. That is very important. I know for me, if I can lay out all my fabric, my interfacing, thread, needles, everything I need for a project, if I can just have that next to me, it saves me from having to get up and down from the sewing machine a dozen times, which, takes up a lot of time. Tip number 7 is make an item that you've made before. Now, obviously, if you're trying a new pattern or a new project, a lot for the time for that, but once you've done a project or a pattern, you kind of know the ins and out of it, and then your time will just get faster. Tip number 8 for sewing fast would be to make a variation of an item that you've made before, which we kind of just talked about that, so I'll keep going. Tip number 9 is make several of the same item at the same time. So right now I am working on a new project, which will be on my sewing channel, YouTube, Sewing Memories. Please go over there, go to sewpreneur.com, get on the newsletter, I have all my links and to my books and planners and everything that everybody loves. Anyways, I do an assembly line, especially when it comes to memory bears. Like, I will have a customer order between 13 and 15 bears at a time. And so when I do the assembly method, it really helps with my time management. Tip number 10 is to choose a simple pattern that has very few details on it. Now, if you're making, something other than, a basic teddy bear or something, there's only so much you can do. But if you're like into sewing clothes or something, maybe choose a less detailed pattern. Totally up to you. Tip number 11 is choose a loose fitting design instead of all the darts and tailored clothing. I know a lot of handbags, they can be very, very detailed, and I've made purses before and Bible cases and notebook covers. I just do very simple, and then I add decorations on it through a variety of like sewing stitches that I have on my project runway. All right, so tip 12 for sewing fast is avoid fabric. I do not like one-dimensional fabric, but I often get that because when I make a memory bear, oftentimes blouses and button-up shirts have a one-directional print, so that does take extra time. But if it's of your choice, pick a non-directional fabric where it doesn't matter if it's sideways, up, down. The pattern, the fabric print is like all over the place, you know. So consider that. All right, are we on number 13? No. Yes, maybe. Let me see. Stay away from fabrics. Oh, yeah. We just did that one. 14. Lay the fabric out with the right sides together. Your pattern pieces will have the right sides already together. Save yourself the step by placing them right sides together before stitching. So all that means, like, this is non-directional, right? I mean, this is obvious here. Let's find. This is non-directional. Doesn't matter how this fabric is laying. But if I lay it out on my table with the right sides already together on themselves, it makes sewing faster. That's pretty much what that tip means. Use the next one, 15. Use a rotary cutter for cutting your fabrics, and then use weights instead of pins. I use scissors and a rotary. It just depends on what project I'm working on. For my memory bears, I like to use my scissors and my pinking shears. For my quilts and t-shirt blankets, I use my rotary cutter. Tip 16, I think I just touched base on this one, which is assembly line. I like to sew in an assembly line. Right now I have all of these that need to be sewn. All of these little squares for my YouTube project that's coming up. Don't you love this fabric? It's like neon 1980s, 90s fabric. Okay, so anyways, I do my assembly line with this. I just sew the sides and toss it in my bucket over here. All right, before you start to sew a seam, grasp the tail ends, hold them. So let me see, before you start to sew a seam. Anyways, know what you're doing with your seam. Okay, move on to the next one. Put your pedal down as fast as you can, comfortably sew. So if you're going slow with your pedal down just a little bit, just make sure that you know what you're doing and that you can control the speed and direction of your sewing machine. Tip 20, use pinking shears to finish the raw edges. That's what I do on my curves for my memory bears and other keepsakes. I use my pinking shears. Last but not least, practice. The more you practice, the better you get. The better you get, the faster you can go. So those were about 21 tips to sew faster, but you don't want to sacrifice quality over quantity of time or time management. So look, I have thread all over me. So those are my sewing tips for today. Today's Friday Sews. It's September 8th, 2023. Stephanie Grams with Sewpreneur. Go to YouTube, subscribe to my channel. That's where all my business, keepsake, sewing tips, patterns, business tips, and all the things with sewing keepsakes are kept. Bye guys, have a great weekend.